Welcome to this place of shared practice, of receiving and maintaining the three treasures, Buddha, Dharma, Sangha, of exploring the world Shakyamuni Buddha discovered, your native ground, here, boundlessly, exactly here. I asked if Scott would be willing to chant the Enmei Juku Kanangyo, this Kanzeon Sutra, for us tonight, because just a few days ago, I received this beautiful dedication that was chanted just before midnight, I believe, at Upaya on New Year's Eve. And I'd like to share it, joining our intentions. You know, we could say, well, that was then and this is now, but actually it's not quite like that. It's just going on. So here's the introduction. The Buddha turns the Dharma wheel, and so reality is shown in all its many forms. All suffering beings are liberated and brought to great joy. Having chanted the Enmei Juku Kanangyo, we offer the merits generated thereby to all women honored ones throughout history whose names have been forgotten or left unsaid, and to all honored lay practitioners who have exemplified the teachings, to the spirits of the deceased inhabitants of this valley, this mountain, and to all beings in the Dharma worlds. We especially pray for the health and well-being of all those afflicted by war, all those in the grip of our climate catastrophe, and to those who are hungry, unsheltered, and unwell. Let us vow to remember the causes of suffering and dedicate ourselves to the ending of suffering. Let us accept all that we cannot change, and let our hearts be broken open. Let us vow to bear witness to the wholeness of life, realizing the completeness of each and every thing. Embracing our differences, let us realize that we are not separate from each other and all that is. May we serve each other for all our days in every way we can. Let us vow to open ourselves to the abundance of life, freely giving and receiving. Let us care for the trees, the rivers, the meadows, and the fields. May we be grateful for all our days and all that we receive. Let us vow to forgive all hurt caused by others and ourselves, and to never condone hurtful ways. Being responsible for our actions, let us free ourselves and others. Let us vow to remember that all that appears will disappear. In the midst of uncertainty, let us sow love and kindness. Let us together live the great peace that we are. May we give no fear for all our days, here, there, and everywhere. May all beings be serene through their ills. And may Kanzeon, who hears the sounds of the world, show us the way of compassion. And may we realize the Buddha way together. Kanzeon, Avalokiteshvara, hearer of the cries of the world, seer of the sounds, not the slightest gap between seeing and responding. Kanan awakens to the emptiness of every aspect of this world, awakens as the bodhisattva of great compassion, realizing the Buddha way. Kanzeon clearly sees that form is emptiness. Emptiness is form. Exactly. We realize the Buddha way together. Not the slightest gap. Tonight, as a pointer to this Buddha way, I'd like to turn to a favorite New Year's Day Dharma Hall Discourse of Dogen. But first, I thought to share just a few of the gifts that have come my way during this turning of the year season. They're messages from students, members of the Sangha, near and far, this one body, this treasure, Sangha treasure, that includes all treasure. They resonate with Upaya's dedication of the new year, an expression of love. Love with no opposite. One unconditional, uncompromising boundlessness. Hearts broken open. That's the vow. Nothing excluded. So the first is from an exchange with a student who shared a moment, just kind of struck a chord. This phrase, dropping away of all the mental processes that felt like an illness, saw self as exactly who I am. Just a way of putting it. I just do what others do. The doing being done for now. Being. The student said, I was part of it, not watching, observing. And then said the word gratitude. This is how it is. Then came the question addressing oneself. What do you really know? How helpful those moments we see clearly really don't know. The Heart Sutra calls it prajna, wisdom, or one rendering of it is pre-knowing, pre-wisdom. Toward the end of this exchange, this practitioner shared an experience of being here in session and commuting at night, driving home one night, with some sense of unease, something coming up. And then the question just coming, what do you really want? What is it you want? And immediately the response, I want to be loved. All of a sudden, a shooting star in this wide New Mexico sky went up and all the way across. Actually, somebody else at the session saw that star, heard about it. I want to be loved. And suddenly the star and the thought, I can drop the D. I want to be love. To be what I am. That's what propelled me into this practice. To be what I am. Another student who's been looking deeply into this question that can come again and again and again, the origin of mu, said, there's nothing behind my gaze. And then cited that beautiful verse by Sekito, the Song of the Grass Hut Hermitage. There's a line, how worldly people live, I no longer live. This one who's living completely at ease in the grass hut. And then this student referred to a phrase that I quoted in some talk, consensus reality. The tacit agreement we make to limit our vision, to limit our sense of wonder, our capacity and availability to what actually is. And up came the line, take the backward step and shine the light inward. And in that moment, this student was putting on a shirt that happened to be inside out and turned it right side in. I don't even know what you call that, the other way. And suddenly the shirt
got it at least this much. At least this much.
Another student just sent a 3-line verse. Every breath an act of love. Every step a dance. Where is mu? And then finally, just a memory of Scott. Years ago, he reminded me today, it was 2016. He was at session in the Philippines, out in the nether world of the Philippines. Sort of jungle, really. And hearing this sea of insects and having the thought, there is nowhere I am not. Hearing that sea, hearing the sounds of the world. You can hear it right now in that little hum. So I'm inclined, because of some much appreciated feedback, always, you know, it's just so wonderful to have this exchange going on all the time. But I wanted to say a word about how to listen to this so-called Teisho or Zen talk, a Dharma talk. And just recently I read an essay by Alan Lessig, a Zen teacher, among other things, a serious amateur ice skater who lives in Berlin. And he was giving a talk on Dogen's Ginjo Koan essay, famous essay. And Alan said, "Hear the words with your eyes. Feel them with your lips and tongue, and smell them with your ears. Let your brain take a deserved vacation." So let's do that and take a look at this Dharma Hall Discourse. Dogen delivered it to his monks. His Dharma talk was short. This one's a little longer than some. This one was in the year 1241. So about 782 years ago. New Year's was, later, like right on the cusp between winter and spring. But still, this New Year's discourse. So many years ago and so current. This Dharma, it is the current. So the talk is called, Dogen's talk, The Advantage of New Year's. And I'm going to read, it kind of comes in with a little introduction and then 3 sections. I'm just going to read the little intro and the first 2 sections and finish up with the third event. So this is Dogen. Today is the beginning of a new year, and also a day with 3 mornings. I say 3 mornings because it is the beginning of the year, beginning of the month, and the beginning of the day. Here is the story. A monk asked Kyosei, "Is there Buddha Dharma at the beginning of the new year or not?" Kyosei said, "There is." The monk asked, "What is the Buddha Dharma at the beginning of the new year?" Kyosei said, "New Year's Day begins with a blessing, and the 10,000 things are completely new." The monk said, "Thank you, teacher, for your answer." Kyosei said, "This old monk today lost the advantage." And Dogen goes on. A monk asked Sozen Shikan, "Is there Buddha Dharma at the beginning of the new year or not?" Sozen said, "There is not." The monk said, "Every year is a good year. Every day is a good day. Why isn't there Buddha Dharma in the beginning of the new year?" Sozen said, "Old man Zhang drinks, and old man Li gets drunk." The monk said, "Great elder, you're like a dragon's head and snake's tail." Sozen said, "This old monk today lost the advantage." So that's about 2/3 of this Dharma talk. Imagine Dogen. He begins this discourse by talking about new beginnings. He says 3 mornings, but it's now now, now. And then he tells a story. There are these two masters in it. Kyosei, wonderful teacher, successor of Seppo, Dharma sibling of Unmon. These remarkable ancestors who keep us company. Sometimes the room feels crowded with them. And the other one is Shikan, a disciple of Unmon. So there's this Unmon flavor in this Dharma Hall Discourse. Sozan is not well known. Kyosei shows up in several koans. One of them, I think I spoke about not too long ago from the Blue Cliff Record or Hekigan Roku, case 46. And he also shows up in the record from Dogen. Dogen records Kyosei's own arrival at Seppo's monastery. So we get these different tellings, these morsels. According to one version, a monk comes to Kyosei. So this is Kyosei already the teacher. And the monk says, I want to study Zen. How can I enter the way? This beautiful dedication, entering the Buddha way. Kyosei asks, what is that sound outside the gate? And he answers, that is the sound of the raindrops. Enter there. There's another version where the monk says, that's the voice of the raindrops. And Kyosei says, enter there. What's so lovely about this is how it mirrors Kyosei's own initial question to his master. He says, this is Dogen recording, as a student entering this monastery, I ask you to point me on the way. And the master replies, do you hear that water flowing over the dam? Kyosei says, yes, master. And Gensha, this other amazing master, Seppo's Dharma heir, who's standing there clearly, Gensha says, enter there. What is the Dharma gate for you? A sound, a sensation, the intimacy of your life, any one bit of it? Enter there. Enter here. So back to this story, this Dharma scene that Dogen presents, where the monk asks Kyosei, is there Buddha Dharma at the beginning of the new year? Is there? And Kyosei is clear, there is. Well, what is it? New Year's Day begins with a blessing. And the 10,000 things are completely new. Beautiful. The monk just says, thank you. Thank you for your answer. And then Kyosei says, this old monk today lost the advantage. He shows the Dharma without any doubt. There is. And then the New Year's blessing. Everything completely new. Yes, right now. But still, Kyosei acknowledges that the monk's response just thank you. That's somehow expressing this Dharma so vividly, maybe more vividly even than this standard blessing. Thank you, teacher, for your answer. The doing being done for now. Freely functioning. Thank you. And then that second scene, the monk asks Sozan, is there Buddha Dharma, the beginning of the new year? And Sozan says, there is not. And the monk comes back with this powerful, poignant quote from Unman that we know as a koan. The monk says, every year is a good year. Every day is a good day. So why isn't there Buddha Dharma at the beginning of the new year? And then Sozan says this line, again, a quote from Unman. Old man Zhang drinks and old man Li gets drunk. And the monk says, great elder, you're like a dragon's head and a snake's tail. You start off strong and, with this living koan that's really about the great matter, life and death, with hyphens, one word, the matter of life and death. Every day is a good day. And then you say something silly like this. And Sozan just says, today, this old monk lost the advantage. Old man Zhang drinks. Old man Li gets drunk. I mean, it seems kind of fitting, really. This quote from his teacher, pointing to the incalculable interconnectedness, that this absolute oneness, this, even the word porousness isn't quite it. This one dynamic body, this all beings body. And with the whimsy of New Year's partying, somehow conveying this wondrous instantaneous spreading of the Dharma. He drinks, he gets drunk. But at the same time, it is deadly serious. Wherever you turn, your own true face, your own body. So now we turn toward Ukraine. We turn toward Iran. We turn toward the cold here, unsheltered. We turn toward all of the suffering and vowing of that dedication. Your own body, your own face. Kyosei says there is, Sozan says is not. No Dharma at the beginning of the new year that's separate from all Dharma. No unique teaching, nothing to teach. You drink water and my thirst is quenched. Actually, everything is contained in just one sip, one drinking, having a cup of tea. That's transmission. This unhindered movement, it's so thoroughly dynamic. And we have this consensus reality that wants to hold things still, that imagines that's possible, and that wants to separate what cannot be separated. It's impossible. The separation itself is fully expressing this boundless oneness, this dynamism. This is Unman's world. There's a koan at the end, the very end of the Mumonkan, where, another day, but Mumon really presents the case. And then he adds on this line from Unman, who lived later. So it's really Mumon putting it here, the very end of the Mumonkan. Unman says, this fan jumps up to the 33rd heaven and hits the nose of the god residing there. The carp of the eastern sea leaps up, overturns a tray, and rain falls in torrents. I mean, this topsy-turvy dynamic world where we imagine location as this and not that. Dogen uses this dialogue as a setup for his own response, for conveying this world. So here's the last section of the talk. This is Dogen speaking about himself. He does this all the time. The teacher, Dogen, said, both teachers say the same. This old monk today lost the advantage. Hearing such a story, many people say, these are good stories about teachers losing advantage in a dialogue, this Dharma combat. Dogen goes on, this mountain monk does not at all agree. Although Kyosei and Sozen speak of one loss, they do not yet see one gain. Suppose somebody were to ask me, Kosho, that's his familiar name for himself, if there's Buddha Dharma at the beginning of the new year or not. I would say to them, there is. Suppose the monk responded, what is the Buddha Dharma at the beginning of the new year? This mountain monk would say to him, may each and everybody, whether staying still or standing up, have 10,000 blessings. It's a completely traditional New Year's blessing of his day. And right there, Dogen freely expresses the totally fallen away world. This Buddha way. Just that. I think, I'm sure some of you know, I know maybe not everybody, that Scott and I got married on December 30th with, talk about now. It was not really pre-planned, and it just unfolded kind of miraculously, marvelously, and into this luminous small ceremony. Still shining. And we're so grateful that Natalie was there and we asked Natalie and her partner each to read something, for this little ceremony. So we heard beautiful Shakespeare sonnet from this great student of English literature. And then we heard the famous verse from the Genjo Koan from this great student, teacher of Dogen. Here's one translation. Most of you know this. To study the way is to study the self. To study the self is to forget the self. To forget the self is to be actualized by the myriad things. When actualized or realized by the myriad things, your body and mind, as well as the body, mind of all others, drops away. No trace of enlightenment remains. And this no trace continues endlessly. So Dogen concludes his New Year's talk. Suppose, the monk said, in that case, in accordance with this saying, I will practice. In accordance with this blessing, I will practice. And Dogen says, this mountain monk would say to him or to her or to them, I, Kosho Dogen, today have advantage after advantage. Now please practice. This Dharma actually wants us to wake up. Drop. Dogen says, body and mind, let it fall. Drop that strange notion of a separate I, me, mine, the sheath of self-deception, the measured space we think we are occupying. Let it fall. Don't know how. And into that vacuum, that space, the whole world comes rushing. The myriad things, they realize us. They realize you, just as you are. You can call this just one loss. Gone, gone, gone. Or with Dogen, we can say just one gain. Every step of the way. Nothing excluded. And nothing lacking. This advantage after advantage. I don't know if encompass is the right word. It encompasses everything, including loss. This great gain, including every detail of our lives. Our lives, unique and unrepeatable. So, Happy New Year. Now, please practice.
Four vows of the Bodhisattva. Sentient beings are numberless. I vow to free them. Delusions are inexhaustible. I vow to end them. The Dharma gates are boundless. I vow to enter them. The enlightened way is unsurpassable. I vow to embody it. Sentient beings are numberless. I vow to free them. Delusions are inexhaustible. I vow to end them. The Dharma gates are boundless. I vow to enter them. The enlightened way is unsurpassable. I vow to embody it. Sentient beings are numberless. I vow to free them. Delusions are inexhaustible. I vow to end them. The Dharma gates are boundless. I vow to enter them. The enlightened way is unsurpassable. I vow to embody it.
Thank you all so much for being here on this night and day to day in this shared practice. So we'll stand now and have a final bow.